Hey guys, it's great to have you here. My name is RC Peck, and the title of this training is Fearless Wealth 5 Shifts to Reclaiming Your Financial Power Now. And basically, what this training is everything I have learned in the last 2+ decades investing in the stock market. Now, I've actually been investing in the stock market over 3 decades, but 2 decades ago, people started paying me money to show them what really works and how you kind of reclaim your power, get your power in this area of growing your money. So that's what this is about. And look, I know most of you have been on probably training webinars before, and the person takes 10 or 15 minutes to get going and they tell you about their kids and whatnot. And look, I want to respect your time. I want to respect my time. So I hope you just kind of agree that I want to kind of get to the good stuff. And then later, when we have time, we can talk about the other stuff. Because we have about 45 minutes together, plus or minus. So I really, I just want to kind of jump in. So let's get to it. So let me talk about who this is for. So this is for anyone who's done okay earning for themselves, but know that they could be doing better when it comes to growing their wealth. So let me be clear about this. Earning money and growing money are very different. So the people who they've earned enough to know that yes, they want to earn more, but earning more for them isn't going to get their net worth higher. So they're kind of saying, I know I can do better in kind of the keeping and growing part. This is for people who've tried the big box advisors and realize that they don't work for them. They don't have the best interest of their clients, you, as their best interest. And this is for people who have then spent a lot of time maybe inside the $1 billion pick of the month newsletter industry with even worse results. And they're kind of still wondering what really works in investing and growing your net worth, growing your wealth, growing your portfolio. What really works? So look, in the next 60 minutes, I want to show you how to reclaim the power over your portfolio and finances without spending hours a day in front of the computer screen managing all those open positions. I want to show you how to generate powerful, reliable returns and income. Even if that seems kind of ridiculous, given how the markets are very volatile, the economy is very volatile, there's a lot of uncertainty in the markets and the economy, but really to show you how to generate generate powerful and reliable returns. And just how to know with power and confidence when the market is your friend and when the deck is stacked against you, right? So that means no more catastrophic losses. I want you to know how to work with the hidden power of the market, whether that market is the stock market, the bond market, the real estate market. I want you to stop fighting against that power so you're never caught on the wrong side of the market, including that manipulation power, right? People manipulating the market to have you lose money. That's also the power I'm talking about. And how to do all this without handing over your financial power, either to the hundreds of newsletter stories or the daily ticker symbol picks or the hours in front of CNBC or Twitter or the blogosphere or any of the other investment noise that you really, honestly, when you think about it, you really don't want to sit through. So I want to talk to you really about what my promise is to you. And my promise is that if you stay with me for the next 45 minutes or so, I'm going to show you a step-by-step strategy. Like I'm literally going to show it to you. I'm not going to tease it to you. I'm going to show it to you how you can really transform your investments in your portfolio and your net worth and your growth in a way so you can reliably grow it and you can always be on the right side of the market regardless of what's happening. Yeah, this webinar is about having your ability, allowing you to reclaim that power over your finances, over keeping and growing it. That's what this is about. And I want you to know there's nothing for sale. So if you're worried that you're going to have to pull out a credit card or something, there is nothing for sale in this webinar. But there's a pretty cool thing that I want to share with you at the end if we have time. And I was in kind of a very unique situation. I was listening to this guy talk about 300 hedge fund managers. And I'm not a hedge fund manager, but I was invited because of who I know in the industry. And I won't tell you his first name, his whole name, but his first name's Adam. His last name starts with an R. And what he said just hit it out of the park. And half the group, half the people that attended this, and there were about 300 people, and these were probably the 300 biggest hedge fund managers in the world. And half of them really, really got it and said, oh my gosh, that's exactly how we do our kind of how we do our magic, and I can't believe you're telling. And the other half, and I'm going to presume it was the other half that weren't doing as well, they didn't really get it. But as soon as the words came out of his mouth, I immediately got what he said. And I said, oh my gosh, that's the difference. That makes a difference for people who are doing things well. And it helped me because he said it clearer than I was doing it, but he said it in such a clear way. So I want to share that with you at the end. So look, if the following doesn't really sound like you, then you probably don't need to stay on the training. But first, do you buy pick of the month research services with high hopes and kind of excitement that you'll finally make up for lost time, only to end up kind of buying great stories but owning kind of horrible investments? And do you secretly know, there must be an easier way, but you've literally kind of run out of places to look, but you're still wondering like what really works in investing? And you're kind of waiting, or part of you is waiting for the next market collapse, but you aren't sure where to hide, much less like how to thrive either when it does it or before it does it. And do you have part of all of your money with a big box advisor, and they aren't serving you best, but you just don't know where to turn, or you should even, or if you should even go ahead and move it? And like, were you hurt in 2008 in the 2008 global financial crisis because your advisor or your pick of the month newsletter service, they just kept you in? Yeah, maybe it was even you that kept you in. Yeah, and or have you burned through just a significant amount of your what I call earnings runway, and just kind of realize that any missteps in the stock market will even hurt you even that much more than it hurt you last time? And I've heard from a lot of people that they were hurt in 2000 when the market fell 50%, but they said, look, RC, I'm 50. I've got 15 more years of earning in front of me. I can make up for it. But that 50-year-old now is 65, and they can't make up for it anymore. And I guess, it's about knowing that your money is working hard for you, knowing that you can maintain a future, that you know that you will have enough, right? That you're not going to have to wake up in the middle of the night anymore wondering when the next shoe is going to drop, or if your kids are going to have to take care of you, but you're living into a certain future, right? You don't want to be at the whim of the market manipulators or the market itself. There's got to be a better way, but you just haven't found it. And really, I kind of boil it down to a question. And it's really like, do you just sometimes feel powerless around your investing or the growing of your wealth? And if the answer is yes, and I want you to kind of hear this the right way, I have some good news. I mean, there's some good news because those aren't the real problems, right? Those aren't the real problems. Not knowing which side of the market, not knowing whether you should be with a big box advisor, those aren't the real problems. The real problems are you haven't made the 5 power shifts. Now, I know you don't know necessarily what the 5 power shifts are, but that's the real problem. And I want to go over what these 5 power shifts are for you so you know what they are and you know how to make them. And once you make them, things really change in your life, because once you make the shifts, you reclaim the power to control your future. You reclaim the power over the stock market and your stock market portfolio and how you're able to live your life, right? You'll be able to experience your future as powerful and certain and secure, with an expanding level of choices and time that's in your control. And you'll always have your money on the right side of the market, even if the market collapses or crashes or gets pulled down or falls. Because, once you make the shift, you'll finally know what it feels like to have your money working powerfully for you, not just pouring more money into a bottomless retirement account. I'm sure some of you have looked into your retirement account and realized that most of the growth is the money that you've put into it. That's very frustrating. And once you make these shifts, you'll be able to generate the income and stability that your lifestyle wants on demand. And the only thing, guys, this is really clear. The one thing you need to know is really these 5 power shifts, not one of the 5, not cherry pick which which of the five is best, but really, really use these five power shifts to reclaim your power over your portfolio while worrying less and getting great results for your money. And I'm actually going to walk you through them. I'm going to show you exactly how to make those five power shifts today on this training. So let's get to that. Now, I just want to quickly say, before we get to that, I just want to spend literally like 30 seconds and just let you know who I am. That's a picture of me. And I think with anything that comes to money, I think what's most important is, yes, I'm married. I've been with my wife for 13 years. We have two great kids. But I think what's most important is my 7-year rolling returns are 146%. Compare that against the S&P 500 with dividends reinvested. And I make that point because most people don't reinvest their dividends. So during the exact same 19-year period, the S&P over any 7-year rolling period grew someone's money 47%. That means over any 7-year rolling period, the S&P took that $100,000 and grew it another $47,000 during any one of those rolling periods. Where people who did the 5 shifts, took the 5 shifts, they took that same $100,000 and they grew it to $246,000 over any 7-year rolling period in the last 19 years. So that's the first thing you probably really need to know about me. I avoided the dot-com crash and the 2008 global financial crisis crash and got back into both of them 5 months after the bottom. And really my specialty is helping people who have kind of tried the big box advisor, and then they knew that didn't really work for them. And then they got lost in what I call the pick of the month newsletter industry because they want to reclaim power over their money and their future. But between those two steps, the big box step and kind of the do-it-yourself, getting trapped in that the pick of the month billion-dollar newsletter industry, my specialty is helping them reclaim their power over it. And I used to be a regular on CNBC, Bloomberg, NBC, ABC. And, you know, I just found I wasn't actually serving my clients best, serving my people best. And I stopped doing it. So look, let's talk about the 5 power shifts. And I want you to know what the 5 power shifts are, because once you make them, things start changing in your life. And let me tell you how I got to these 5 power shifts. So over the last 2 decades, and not just recently, but in the first 5 or 6 years, I would look at who did best in the market and who wasn't, or just they did a little bit. And what I started to notice was the people that did the best, they all did the same 5 things. And the people who didn't do well, and these were people who hired me to help them. So I gave them advice, but I would ask them, hey, were you doing this or were you doing that? And they kind of cherry picked these 5. Maybe they did 2 of the 5 power shifts, or they did 1 of the 5, or they did 3 of the 5, or maybe they only did, maybe they did 4 of the 5. And the results weren't as good, but the clients who took my advice and did all 5 shifts, made all 5 shifts in their life, their lives changed. Their money grew. They got reliable income. They got reliable growth. And I want to share those 5 shifts with you, and I want to start with the first one now. And the first power shift is you got to invest with total honesty. And I mean, you got to invest with total honesty. And look, I find that the most dangerous lie, and let's talk about this. I mean, let's just be really honest. The most dangerous lie is the lie that you tell yourself. That is the most dangerous lie. And there have been stats, and I've been keeping stats for a very long time, and I do a lot of research to see what works and what doesn't work. And I want to talk to you about what investing with total honesty means. So let me just show you this right here. So this right here is the S&P 500 in blue, and this is its 20-year average rolling return, right? So on average, if you invest with the S&P, you get about 10% on average over that 20-year period every year. But then you compare the do-it-yourself stock investors, and this is the pick of the month newsletter industry, right? These are people who say, I'm going to go do it myself. I realize that big box advisors can't help me, so I'm going to go do it myself. And consistently, and there's deep, deep research on this, and a lot of it comes from Delbar Research, which is a stock market research company out of Boston, Massachusetts. And they collect this data every year over the last 40 years, and it always comes back almost the same. And what comes back almost always the same is the average investor who's doing it themselves underperforms. I want you to get this. Underperforms the S&P 500 by 3 times. This is amazing. Now, some years they only perform by 2.8%. Some years it's 3.5%. It's always different in each 20-year rolling period, but it's always between kind of 2.75 and 3.5 times worse. I mean, this is amazing. So I'm just going with the middle numbers. That means if the stock market, if the S&P 500 grew money by 9% a year, that do-it-yourself investor is growing money by 3% a year. They're literally killing their future. Like, they're literally killing their future. But they don't know it because they're not actually tracking. They're not being honest. They're not looking at what they're actually doing because that's not how their brain is designed. I don't mean specifically. I mean generally. That's not how humans' brains are designed. So they're not being honest with themselves. And I'm talking about investing with total honesty. The strategy of total honesty is at the heart of everything we do. It's at the heart of everything we do, right? So here's focus point number 1. Track your behavior so you can immediately see what is working, what is not working. You can track this. And with growing your wealth, it's actually pretty straightforward how to track this. Focus point number 2, track the most important number on the planet for your wealth. People are not tracking the most important number. Your most important number is your net worth and knowing what goes into your net worth and then knowing which part of those inputs hurt and help your net worth. But people aren't doing that. They're either tracking what they make, their revenue, their income, or they're tracking what that big one-time stock that they put 0.5% of their portfolio into and it went up triple digits. But they're not tracking the right information. And it's hurting them. It's hurting their life. It's hurting their future. And it reminds me of a client that I worked with. This was actually a few years ago. 60-year-old guy, just retired, and he flew planes. That was his hobby. And he hired me, and he kind of knew that he could do better. So one of the first things we did was I said to him, okay, go write down your last trades of the last 12 months. And he's like, well, look, I'm not a trader. I'm an investor. I'm like, okay, go write down your investments of the last 12 months. And so he did, but he didn't really want to. He's like, I don't have time for this. Just tell me what to do. I said, look, you're paying me to tell you what really works, and we got to start with honesty. So I kind of made him do it, and he wrote it down. It took him a couple hours. But he came back, he had 85 trades. And he actually then said, wow, I have 85 trades over the last 12 months. And he did not realize, because he thought of himself as an investor. But when his money hit the market, it was like a Jekyll and Hyde. He became a trader. It sounds like I said trader to his ideas, but he became almost like a day trader. And I said to him, I looked over his number, I said, you have 9 positions that you bought and sold in the same day. He's like, no, I'm not a day trader. I think I angered him. But I had him look at it. He's like, I can't believe that's how I've been behaving. Because he never took an honest look at his money and saw what was and what wasn't working. And what he had focused on was he earned a lot of money in his active earnings years. So he's like, oh, I earn a lot of money. But he wasn't tracking the right numbers. And once he did, he got really honest with himself of what was and what wasn't working, right? Because it doesn't matter how well you earn. No one can out-earn confusion, right? Or playing not to lose or being in defense mode. You cannot out-earn that. And if you want to generate reliable income and grow your money from the market, whatever market that is, then you'll need to be clear about what is actually happening. And I'm telling you guys right now, in 2 decades, most people, they are not clear of what's actually happening with their money. And that's what's hurting them. So I want to say one more thing about this, and this is hugely important. And so if you zoned out for a second, I want you to tune back in. The market reflects your behavior. First of all, the market is always right. Right? It's your interpretation of the market that's not right. So let me just tell you, and that's not the point I want to make, but the market's always right. And the market's always a reflection of you. Like the money you return, how you did this year or last year or the year before or the last 5 years or the last 10 years has nothing to do with the stock market. And it's all a reflection back on how you're actually behaving, who you are with your money. That is what's most powerful, is for you to really get This is reflecting back to me. So if your money's been growing poorly over the last 15 years, and I'm not pointing my finger at you, right? I'm not indicting you. I'm just telling you my observation from 2 decades of working with people and having them be on the right side of the market and reclaiming that power, is to let them know the returns you've gotten, that's a mirror on you and your behavior and nothing more or nothing less. Okay. So power shift number 2, and this is just crazy, crazy important. Power shift number 2. You cannot win races in boats with leaking hulls. I want to show you a price chart. I want you to look at this price chart on the screen here. Most people, and let me just say everyone's portfolio that I've ever looked at, I find a lot of leaks, whether it's their big box advisor person that they know they need to fire, or they're doing the pick of the month newsletter thing. But every portfolio I've ever looked at, that's a pretty big statement, I have found 2 to 5% of leaks. Now that's a pretty big deal, but it's hard for the brain to get what that means. So just look at the screen here. These are it's one price chart with 2 pieces of data on it. The blue line is your money growing with no leaks. The red line has a 2% leak in it every year. And so what's interesting is when you have a 2% leak, you don't really notice it at first, right? There's not a lot of difference. Well, first of all, no one notices a 2% leak because they're so focused on putting big sails on the sailboat and learning the latest techniques and whatnot. But really, I think of a leak kind of like a leak in that hull of that sailboat. You're not going to really do that well, regardless of what size sails you put on. You've got to plug the leaks. So even just a 2% leak, the difference between the blue line and the red line is significant. The blue line is up 159% over this time period. The red line is up 84% during that time period. That is a big difference. Now, even that difference doesn't really hit home the difference. It means if you put $100,000 on the blue line, you'd have gotten another $159,000 just by plugging the leaks, even if you just bought the market. I'm talking about plugging your leaks right now. If you didn't plug leaks, and again, there's many ways to have leaks. One is through having a big box advisor. One way is doing the do-it-yourself newsletter world. But if you don't even plug a 2% leak, that $100,000, it only grows that $100,000 by $84,000 more. The difference between $84,000 and $159,000 is $75,000. That's a huge difference. That's on $100,000. The difference between those numbers is the difference between sending a kid to school or not. The difference between having an investment home or not. That's 89% difference between those two numbers. It is huge. You can see the gap visually. You can see it. But the second major shift is to plug the leaks. This is a significant thing that people are not doing. There's leaks in people's portfolios. There's leaks in people's accounts. There's leaks in how they've automated it. There's leaks in transferring money from the earnings world to the growth world. Yes, there's 2 different worlds. There's leaks in the gap between what you should have done and what you actually did or got done. There's leaks in fees, commissions, expenses. There's leaks in being diversified when you don't need to be diversified. There's leaks in buying newsletters. There's leaks in taking action when you don't need to. And I said this a minute ago, but I just really want you to get this. You can't win a sailing race. You can't win the race with a bunch of leaks in your hull. It's not going to happen. I don't care how big the spinnaker is or the sail. I'm not a sailor, but it doesn't matter how big that is. If you're going up against someone with the same skill, you will lose. Plug the leaks. This is about plugging the leaks so you can have the life that you want. It's one of the differences that makes a difference. It's one of the ways to eliminate stock market anxiety, right? It's one of those ways. It's one of the ways that you don't have to be at the whim of the markets and the manipulators, that you don't have to struggle anymore with your investments, that you don't have to continue groping in the dark looking for the next moonshot pick of the month investment. You can eliminate those. You can start to get good night's sleeps, have more and more stability in your marriage, in your life, in your finances. That's what plugging the leaks will do. And that's why it's one of the shifts. Because it makes a difference. And it's completely in your control. By the way, so was the first shift, being completely in your control. Being honest with yourself, completely in your control. Plugging the leaks, completely in your control. So let's talk about shift number 3. Again, it is completely in your control. This is completely in your control. And you're going to hear me say that, like, oh, see, I got it. But I don't think a lot of people do get this. They think, oh, the market gets manipulated. And I'm at the end of like a whip. And no, it doesn't have to be that way. That's the way it was, but it doesn't have to be that way. So let's talk about power shift number 3. Filter the noise out of your life. Filter the noise out of your life. There is so much noise hitting your brain that literally your brain doesn't know what to do. You're getting hit with, you got to do option selling and no, you got to do covered calls. You got to sell covered calls. No, you got to buy put protection. And no, maybe you got to do day trading with ETFs, or maybe you really got to do buy and hold and maybe rebalance every 12 months. No, it's a 60-40 split and always rebalance to keep that 60-40 split. Nope, it's not that. You got to diversify over 10 asset classes, right? No, you got to read technology breakthrough newsletters. Nope, it's not that. You got to read the small cap newsletters. You got to read the retirement millionaire newsletter and buy those equities, right? No, it's about dividends. Yeah, it's about getting dividends. No, it's not dividends. It's monthly income. No, it's not monthly. It's hedge funds. It's alternative investments. No, it's passive income. No. Hold on. It's REITs. You got to look at REITs. It's not REITs. It's hard money loans. Come on, guys. You know it's growth stocks. It's deep value stocks. No. Okay. It's not. It's Forex. Okay. It's Forex. It's Forex. It's alternative investments. You know what? I'm not going to do anything. It's do nothing. It's have money in CDs. This is insanity. But there's so much information hitting our brain that literally our brain shuts down. You've got to filter the noise out. This is not a choice. The brain is getting slammed. Literally, I figured it out. It's about 3,000 symbols a day. I mean, plus or minus depending on who you are. And it can be more than this, but it's up to 3,000 symbols a day. Through the newsletter industry, they're teasers, they're paid for newsletters, they're free ones, they're upsells, they're promoted ones, they're cross-promoted ones. It's the money channels, what they talked about, the scrolling symbols at the bottom. It's ads being shown between the show you're actually wanting to watch. The blogs, income blog, growth blog, value blog, biotech blog, tech blog, option blog, small cap, mid cap, large cap, mega cap, deep value blogs. This is insanity. It's all the talking heads. And then it's just your own looking. It's you just doing your own stuff. Your brain is literally screaming. Your prefrontal lobes are literally screaming to stop. And then they shut down. They literally go offline. This actually happens. And then your amygdala takes over. And you do not want your amygdala taking over because that's going to really shut things down. And this is happening 6 to 7 days a week. And you wonder why your brain's not able to make the best investment decisions, because literally you're slamming it with information. And I just want to tell you what you're up against here. Those newsletters that you own, those pick of the month newsletters you own, they are literally those stories that got you drooling, Pavlovian type response. They're written by the best admin in the business. Those admin know the science of how to get your brain triggered. They know this. This is why they make 6 to 7 figures a year. It's literally on the back of your savings in your life. They know how to do it. They sell the research on an underlying investments, making a new lifetime high. Right? So I can tell you the best newsletters that were sold when oil was hitting triple digits and it was hitting 120 and 130 and 140, I can tell you the best newsletters that were getting pushed on you were energy newsletters because the dopamine is the highest. Absolutely. This is happening to your brain. You have to filter the noise. If not, you literally shut down your prefrontal lobes, and they don't know what to do. Literally, the prefrontal lobes, they go offline. And then you're left with the limbic part of your system, of your brain. And the limbic part of your brain does not make good investment decisions. Okay, so let's talk about these first 3 shifts just for a second. And I want to point out a couple things about them. So first of all, what you learned. 1, filter the noise. If you don't, it takes your brain offline and then you make really bad decisions. I'm going in reverse here. Filter out the noise. The one right before it is plug the leaks. The smallest leak I've ever found in a portfolio is 2%. And I showed you that price chart, just showing you what a 2% leak can do with your money over time. Literally an 89% difference in how your money grows. And that price chart I showed you was over 16 years. This is significant. That's just a leak. And plugging a leak is entirely in your control. I mean, it is entirely in your control. Yeah? And then the first one, do you guys even remember what the first one was? And then the first one, okay, be honest. Be honest with yourself. And I hope you just hear to me, because be honest in the way that I'm telling you to be honest. If you're honest with yourself, meaning you're measuring your numbers, okay, you plug your leaks and you eliminate the noise, you filter out the noise, that alone, what I just described to you, that alone can change your future forever. And we're talking about changes in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to your future. It changes the quality of your life. It gets you the stability, right? It allows you to eliminate the stock market anxiety and just market stress. It allows you to have that certain and secure future. That means you can become a bigger difference maker to your cause or your community and your family to really be able to avoid those catastrophic losses. Because you're not leaking that 3 to 5% of your portfolio. You've cut out all that noise. But guys, we still have 2 more. We still have 2 more shifts to do here. And look, the next shift is probably the one that gets people most excited. All right, it is incredibly powerful. It shifts and changes people's lives, but not without doing the other 4 shifts. So it's almost like a warning, and it sounds kind of ridiculous, but I just want to warn you that the next one is super, super powerful. Okay, but implementing that alone or just picking that one shift out of the 5 is not going to shift your future. So power shift number 4 is the stairway to financial power, or what I call the stairway to financial power. Okay, it's super, super powerful because it's one of those things that just changes someone's entire life. It changes their entire life. And I want to show you a price chart. So I want to compare this blue line with the red line. The blue line is a strategy that I have, and the red line is the S&P 500. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but people often believe that diversification is the thing that's going to help them protect and grow their money. But actually, that's not true. And if you just notice that diversification has never helped during any major market sell-off, like 2000 dot-com crash or 2008 global financial crisis, it didn't help. And diversification actually does not safely accelerate your money during the stable uptrends. So it's really kind of getting off the roller coaster of the market and getting kind of into this stableness of just being on what I call the stairway to financial power, or kind of reclaiming your financial power. And it's knowing when, well, I'll get to that second. It's really knowing what questions to ask yourself. But if you look at the difference here and you look at what happens when your life is on the blue line, you notice there's some time periods that step up higher, and there's some that just go flat, and then they go up, and then there's small corrections, and then they kind of stabilize, and then they go higher. There's still some correction, and then they go higher. Now the difference between the blue line, which is shift number 4, and the red line is just asking yourself questions. I'm going to tell you what the questions are in a second, okay? But it's a huge difference between just buying the market. And I just want to tell you, most people don't even buy the market. They mess up so much. They get those leaks. They get the 2 to 5% in their leaks. They don't eliminate the noise, and they're not honest with themselves. So most people, they're not even on the red line on the screen, which is the S&P 500. They're not even on it, because that red line beats 95% of everyone. And the blue line, as you can clearly tell visually, and now you can see it's 133% difference from the red line. That's a difference that makes a difference. Because the old way, and I do want to talk to you about the old way. The old way is the roller coaster, right? You got to diversify and rebalance and buy options and sell options and get individual company ticker symbols and research global markets and know what the GDP rates are of your country or other countries or the growth rate of that. And you got to get some investment newsletters. We talked about the pick of the month newsletter industry. And you got to know the macro trends and do some ETF trading and maybe deep value investing in Forex and IPO this or IPO that. I mean, look, the list gets longer and longer every year because there's more ways for people to splinter out ideas and then say, no, it's small cap. That's the old way. It's a roller coaster way.